everyone, and welcome once again to From the Top, our sub-podcast where we talk about the top games in Metacritic and we examine them thoroughly, intrusively, personally, sensually.
Please don't creep everyone out with the first 5 seconds.
That's how I do it. That's how I get into the zone. This is how I get into the flow. This is my process.
You want to be upfront about your weirdness, I guess. Okay.
Yeah,
fair.
people need to know what they're getting into. So today we are on number 4 on Metacritic, which is the Dreamcast classic, if that's not an oxymoron. Soul Calibur. Before we get started, I have a very important question for you guys. Have you ever been in a fight?
Wow. Whatever,
like between the two of you?
Oh, you mean a fist fight?
Like have me and Sean at the crack of dawn got up bare-chested and fought each other with our fists?
Well, the bare-chested bit is the most important part of that sentence, so yes.
Yeah, that's the most important element of the fight, really.
Many a time.
I've never been in like a fight, like Fight Club, and there's like a circle of guys around you, or like in school. But I have been beaten up. So does that count?
I guess was by one person or multiple people?
Multiple people.
Really?
On a night out.
Wait, like you got jumped, like?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man.
Yeah.
Why did you make an offensive joke?
No, okay, knowing me, you'd think Michael definitely started that fight. But I just walked out of a chipper and back home in Wexford. I'm not going to get too specific about details.
Yeah, name names. Like.
Johnny Shits,
Richard Simmons, you bastard.
It was him. He just jazzercised up to me. But no, just, a bunch of lads on a night out just for no apparent reason. I was with another guy, so unless they had some beef with him. So we just got a few boxes and ran, basically.
They weren't trying to mug you or anything like?
Nah, they weren't into that. It was just sort of like...
They weren't into mugging. Just beating lads up.
They told me their likes and dislikes.
Too mainstream.
I looked up their Bebo afterwards and mugging was under dislikes.
Yeah, unfriend.
What about you, Sean? Have you ever been in a good fight?
I have been in a few in like primary school, but not really since then. Yeah, just kind of, and actually, funny enough, I have been in one of those like circle fights. It was in primary school. I remember for some reason, I got into a fight with like the school bully, and like so literally in the playground or whatever, and everybody like circled around us, and then the teachers came out and broke it up, and we had to go to the principal's office.
Did you have an actual school bully, like in capital letters, school bully, who was the one known to everybody as the school bully?
Yeah. I mean, there was like there was a few of them.
Did
like
he have a denim jacket that had the sleeves ripped off?
No, he wasn't from the 70s or whatever.
What was his name? What was his name online?
I'm not going to name names because I mean I don't know where he is now. I'm sure he's like a better person, but I don't know. But no, they were known, pretty much known as like the school bully.
I love how relevant all this is to Soul Calibur.
Yeah, I know. How is this leading back?
Any Soul Calibur fans listening are like, what the fuck, man?
It's called a segue for fuck's sake.
Okay. Since we're asking the question,
segue.
What about you, Steve?
Of course I have. Yeah, I was also jumped on a night out as well. Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is kind of a thing in Wexford. It was a very similar situation to Michael there, where literally lads were just in the mood for a fight. And I remember some lad asked me, or no, he said to me, you were talking to my girlfriend in there in like some pub or something. And apparently this was a very sassy answer, but it was also very true. It was like, man, I was talking to a lot of girls in there. And he didn't take very well to that. So yeah, he just laid a box on me and was like, oh, all right, so this is how this is going to go. All right.
I love the phrase laid a box on me. It's like he had on a platter in front of you. Knuckle sandwich, sir?
People don't realise the cardboard box item has like multiple meanings, actually.
That's true.
All right, listen, we're getting off topic and that's my fault.
But I like it. I want to keep talking.
Soul Calibur is a game where you get into fights and
was that the segue?
Wow, that's amazing.
Good, right? But actually it's funny you say like the kind of circle thing, because a big thing that Soul Calibur brought to the table was like the arena fighter, which is something that like had been in games before, but this is probably the best version of that. Have you got, actually, before I say anything now, have you guys actually played the game?
Never.
No, sorry. Now, and we pride ourselves on our research here, but as you can tell from the preceding episodes, but no. I had Soul Edge on the PlayStation. It's actually the first game I got on the original PlayStation, and I remember really enjoying it.
Soul Edge is solid.
Yeah, because I was into like the Tekkens and Street Fighters and stuff like that. So like any fighting game, like Bloody Roar and Rival Schools and all these like slightly more obscure ones, I was crazy into. Shaq Fu, the classic, like top tier. You don't even have to mention it, but Soul Edge and Calibur always had a different vibe, mainly because of the weapons, I guess. But there were also like, the character designs were so fucking crazy as well, which I'm sure we'll get into. But didn't play Calibur.
Like last week, I'm going to say that in inverted commas. Last week when we announced that like the fourth game on Metacritic was Soul Calibur, I think all three of us had that moment of, really? Because it's not a game that we really know anything about. Like, it's not really in the cultural landscape at all when it comes to gaming. It's nothing about it seems like, holy hell, yeah, this is like the best game ever. But after looking it up, we diligently research, as I said before. We read the Wikipedia pages thoroughly.
We Wikipedia hard, yeah.
Yeah. But like a lot of outlets gave it like perfect scores, saying it was incredible. And like it's got this weird history like in gaming critical circles as being like a top tier fighting game. And yet I knew nothing about it going in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like IGN gave it a perfect score before, like in a time where they weren't giving them out. Famitsu, is that the correct name for the Japanese publication that gives it like a score out of 40, and they gave it like a really high score as well.
Didn't they give it 40?
They gave it a perfect score, and like that again back then it was very rare for them to give perfect scores, and it seems to be the thing I've heard most by watching reviews and all is that it was an amazing arcade conversion of an already good game.
Yeah, it's when I was looking it up, apparently it's one of the very few console conversions that was deemed better than the arcade version, which is pretty much unheard of. Like, there's almost never a case when that happens. A big part of this was like the graphics that the backgrounds in the arcade, the graphics. But the arcade version had like flat 2D backgrounds, whereas they were dedicated to making 3D backgrounds for the console port. They were obviously, this is on the Dreamcast, which had a kind of a troubled production, and they really needed it to be a success, so everyone was being pushed very hard. So I'm going to give just a little bit of details on this, just for anyone who knows nothing about it, like we did last week. The arcade version came out in 1998, and the Dreamcast console version, it was a launch title, and it came out in 1999, produced by Namco. And some of the big important factors in this game is, as I said before, it incorporated the 8-way run system in an arena-based thing. Now, arena fighters were things that have been done before. Whenever I think of arena fighter, I always think of that weird Final Fantasy fighting game, Air Gaze. Remember that one?
Yeah, that was it was an ugly-looking game.
Do you know, for the time, people said that was an amazing looking game.
No, it didn't age well. Soul Calibur still looks sick, but Air Gaze, I don't know. Yeah.
But big things to take note of here is, it was better than the arcade port. It has weapons and weapon blocking, which is something that not many games had. And that is kind of the thing I think you think of when you think of Soul Calibur. Because like most other games, the likes of like your Tekken, your Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat sort of as much, but like in this game, every character has a weapon, and almost every character is sort of defined by their weapon. Not so much in Soul Edge where you could switch them out, but in this one, they do seem to be defined by their weapon.
Are you able to switch, like unlock new weapons and stuff in this as well, though? Or
no, there is. So in Soul Edge, you could, but they were always similar types of weapons. So if you have a sword, you'll have different shapes and sizes of swords. And if you have a stick, you could get like maybe a spear or something. But they always kind of handled the same. In this one, you can't really switch out. It's just like the same stuff.
All right.
And it's actually like it works really. I will say about this game, it feels amazing to play. Like previous games that we've talked about now, like my opinion hasn't changed of the previous 3 games before I played them for this and afterwards. But this game I came into, and I think I'm a Soul Calibur fan now.
Oh wow. Cool.
Yeah, okay. No, honestly, like I kind of want to play all of them, which is a shame because there's like 5 more of the main titles and like I think 3 other spin-offs, but I do kind of want to get into it because it just feels really good to play. And a big part of that is buffering. So I'd say any fighting enthusiast listening to this, which let's face it, probably all of them, they would say that like Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat, maybe not Mortal Kombat, although the recent ones maybe. I'd say most of them would probably say Street Fighter is like the top tier fighting game because that has a really strict buffering system. Your timing has to be really exact to pull off like combos and that. You have to be good to play Street Fighter. And there's an argument to be made, that's what makes a good fighting game. But for me, someone who's shite at fighting games, I gotta tell you, this game feels so good to play. It's so not easy, but like it's really accessible. You can pull off really good moves like in just a couple of button taps, and that is incredible.
So for anyone who doesn't know the term, I'm guessing that in this case, buffering means that if you want to input a combo, the window of time you have to do each input is a bit more lenient than it would be in like a Tekken or a Street Fighter, where like you're saying, your timing has to be really exact.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like it's extremely lenient and it's extremely forgiving. So like I had no problem inputting combos here. And this is the thing, I can understand people being like, no, it should be strict. It should be an element of skill. But like, I don't have time for that shit. No, I just want to sit back and beat up like, you know, the man made of fire who has my sword. So, you know... that's a little in-joke for anyone who's actually played the game.
Well, we should specify, like, me and Sean didn't do our due diligence, but Steve went out and bought a Dreamcast just to play this game. So
what? No,
he bought a Dreamcast.
Dude, fair fucking play, man.
No, I did. Yeah, no, to be fair, in Japan, Dreamcasts are dirt cheap. Like this cost me like only like a few quid. And actually, we should talk a minute about the Dreamcast because like that is something that's not going to be talked about a lot in this podcast because I doubt there's going to be that many Dreamcast games high up on this list. Yeah. But it's a really interesting little system. Like, did you know? So you probably knew this already. It's the first gaming system that actually had internet accessibility. It was really big on like gimmicks. My favorite one by far has to be like the memory card. So
it goes into the controller, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And it has like a little screen on it, right? And I'm going to send you a little video. I took this, this is a video that I took while I was playing Soul Calibur, right? And I don't know if this is the case for every game, but for Soul Calibur at least, whatever character you're playing as, he'll show up on the screen and do this like very, very minimalistic animation, just like bouncing up and down.
He looks like a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like whatever game you're playing as well, like it'll show the logo up on it. Like lots of really neat little touches. It's well before its time though, because these little gimmicks I think this is what made the Dreamcast cost an absolute fortune and people didn't care about that.
Yeah.
If this was something that was implemented in like a Xbox, like the new Xbox or the new PlayStation, I'm like, yeah, I could see people getting behind it. But for this, it was cool. And I'm sure people who had it liked it, but it probably didn't justify like the high price range on it.
Do you know, like on, because it came out around the same time as the PlayStation 1, or no, after the PS1?
Yeah, before the PS2?
A couple of years before that, wasn't it? Do you know how much it ran for?
I could be now. I might be thinking of the Sega Saturn, which I remember was really pricey. But let me just see if I can find it here now.
I think the Dreamcast was a bit more expensive than the PlayStation 2.
And the thing was, it wasn't like, from what I remember, the graphics weren't up there with the PS2 because it was more like in between like 1 and 2 generation.
I don't know. Some games looked amazing as well. Like Soul Calibur does look great, and our RE4 was originally a Dreamcast exclusive as well.
Really?
Yeah. That was part of a deal that Capcom made.
Sorry. You were saying RE4. I thought you meant like Code Veronica.
No.
So wait, no. I think it was Code Veronica. I think RE4 like was originally a GameCube exclusive.
Resident Evil 4 came out years after the PS2 launched.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You're thinking of GameCube.
I'm thinking of the GameCube.
Yeah.
So
we do our research, guys.
The Dreamcast, when it was released, now this was back like this is back when we had pounds, not even euros. Jesus Christ! But like it was basically £200 or like $200.
That's what I'm seeing here. Yeah, that would have been cheaper than the PS2, I'd say. Would it?
I'd say so. I mean, I have it in my head that the PS2 was like cheaper than that, but
no way. There's no way it was less than £200.
Again, diligent research.
Due diligence happening.
Apparently, it was $300.
There you go.
Yeah. So okay,
I'm surprised at that. Yeah, so it was cheaper, huh?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
must have been thinking of the Sega Saturn. That's diligent research. We did well.
But that's because I remember in my local Tesco there was like back in the day when you'd go to a GameStop, or it wasn't even called GameStop then, it was Game World or Games World. They'd have like consoles set up that you could play, and in my local Tesco they had a Dreamcast set up and I think a PS1, so it was before the PS2 launched. And I remember playing the Dreamcast then, and like that was the only time I played it, was in Tesco. But I think I was playing Crazy Taxi on it or something, but I was like, this is class.
You go to Tesco every fucking night.
Yeah, no. Whenever my mum would be doing the shopping, I'd be like, I'll be over at the Dreamcast.
Not helping you.
But
Can I tell you actually a funny story now? Like, so there's like a little holiday kind of destination in Ireland, in Cork, called Trebolgan, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. Yeah. So I remember back in the day, like when my family, we went there like on a little holiday kind of thing, and we found out that you could rent out consoles for your houses, like in this like little place there. And one of them was a Dreamcast, and like they said that we've got like one Dreamcast, one PS1, and like so me and my brother made this plan for when we went on holiday. Like we weren't going to do anything else that was on this holiday. We're going to get a Dreamcast and we'll play the whole way through Sonic Adventure. It's like we planned the entire trip around finishing Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast.
Well, don't hold it out, man. Did you complete Sonic Adventure?
No, it was never available. Like, because there was only the one, and there was like hundreds of houses there, so obviously, like, it was never available.
Those are the days, though. Like, I remember you could like literally go to Extravision, which used to be like an old VHS rental place in Ireland, but you could like rent out a console.
Yeah,
just for like
that.
a week or something. It's like, yeah, mad stuff.
Imagine doing that now. Imagine renting out a PlayStation 5 for a week.
They'd never be brought back though. Like,
you just well, we're cancelling your membership. It's like, oh fuck no! Here, take my PS5 back. Anyway, so back to Soul Calibur, because we've gone on a bit of a tangent here.
But the Dreamcast was class and ahead of its time. Let's just put that out.
It was,
there.
and actually, the fact that it was cheaper than I thought it was is actually pretty something. Like, I wonder why it didn't sell it. I guess because PS2 had such good third-party support, maybe. Do you know what it was? The DVD player actually was surely
that was a
something to do with
huge
it.
thing for the PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely I definitely remember when the PS2 came out, I was like, fuck hell, this is way better than the Dreamcast in terms of graphics and stuff.
It just looked cooler as well. It looked like the monolith out of fucking 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Versus a Dreamcast, which looks like, I don't know, a fucking toys oven.
Thing is, the Dreamcast actually, it looks very similar, like from the top down, to a PlayStation 1 as well. And like, when like the PS1 did so well, so when Sony came out with the PS2, everybody was going to gravitate towards that naturally, I guess. But
true.
Oh, I just see you can get a black Dreamcast as well. That's pretty
that
cool.
changes everything.
It's a Dreamcast Code Veronica limited console edition. £13,000 on eBay. Jesus Christ. Anyway, getting sidetracked. Sorry.
The Dreamcast it's savage. Like, I quite enjoy playing, and it's not like. And I know I'm very much in the minority here, but it's not like the Xbox where it's like a culture shock, because I always have trouble getting used to the Xbox controller. But this one, not so much. So yeah, Michael, I wanted to ask you something, right? You played Soul Age before. Can you remember anything of the plot of that game?
Oh shit, man. Plots in fighting games are like insane. And like all the cutscenes and all. Guys, if you have a second, anyone listening, go and look at all the cutscenes in the first two Tekken games. Tekken 2 in particular are amazing. I'm waffling now because I actually don't remember shit. All I remember is like everyone has their own personal backstory to get this fucking sword. And then at the end of it, the knight guy who seems really good, like in the canon of the game, got the sword and it corrupted him.
Well remembered, actually. That's actually spot on, which I didn't know. I had the game as well, but I remembered none of that. The only thing I remembered was the main bad guy, the guy who had the sword, was a very flamboyant looking pirate named Cervantes.
Yes, yeah. The fucking characters were crazy, and so they all looked like they were from different games. You had these like noble looking like samurai and ninja guys, and then like a crazy pirate and whatever the fuck Voldo is. Like, just
we do have to talk about Voldo, seriously.
His design is amazing. I think there's one game where he has like goggles with spikes coming out of his eyes, which is like, I guess, cool, but very impractical. But he's blind, is he? I don't know.
So I looked all this up before, right? And this is something that I want to talk about here. I want to go through each. So just getting a little bit ahead of myself, right? The one thing that I think holds Soul Calibur back, in my opinion, actually is the characters. So like, I think this probably handles better than any other fighting game I've ever played. Tekken being maybe the one exception, but I think what pushes Tekken ahead of the line for me, like I don't think this tops a lot of Tekken games. And I think a lot of that is because like the characters have, well, character. Like they've got really good characters and like they're memorable, whereas a lot of these ones tend to blend together. So to do something a little bit different here, I kind of want to run through each character and their backstories, and I want you guys to kind of give them like a passing or failing grade if you think they're a good character or a bad character.
Okay, so how many characters are there?
Just 57.
There's about I think there's about 14 or so.
Okay, that's cool.
And like I'm only going to go on the really interesting points. I'm not going to like go into every aspect of their character. But first, I think we have
blood type.
I think we got to start with Voldo because he is by far one of the most iconic and most interesting characters. So Sean, do you know the character of Voldo, incidentally?
No clue, no.
So Voldo is kind of based on like sadomasochist fetishism.
Cool.
He's got like all these like leather belts. Like I think his arse is showing in every single version of every game that he's in.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at a picture of him now.
There's one version of the character was banned in America, but not in Europe and in Japan. I had so much fun playing it he's got this like these what would you call them? Like briefs? No, like tiny whities with like a bull head coming out of the crotch, and it's just like really dodgy looking. So Voldo actually, despite his really interesting character design, he has almost no story whatsoever to speak of. There's this one guy who's a weapons merchant called Versi, and he's the guy who originally holds on to the Soul Edge, which is the sword everybody's going after. And Voldo is basically his right-hand man, and he is absolutely obsessed with Versi. Like, he is completely subservient to him in a sadomasochistic way.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he dies at the start of the first game once the Soul Edge is captured, and Voldo basically guards the tomb until he hears the voice of his former master telling him, "You must go out and get the sword for me." And that's basically his entire story.
Yeah, that's good. Like, that's what you expect from a guy who looks like this. I don't want Voldo to be like, oh, I was there with my wife and kids and I had a 9-to-5 job and I just, I'll go into this tournament for the fun of it. No, he's got to be like somebody's fucking slave and he's fucking into weird shit and he heard a voice and it said, go kill people.
I think he's a really like creepy looking character, which is like good for a fighting game, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I don't think you need like too much big backstory on him.
Yeah, so that's a pass.
That's a pass from you?
So you mean that's a no or a yes?
No, like
pass or fail, like.
Pass or I'll give him a pass. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So he's got a pass. Now the next one is another famous character. She's kind of like the face of the franchise.
Oh, the face, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's her. Her name is Sophicia, and she is a Greek baker's daughter.
How do you spell that? Sorry, I'm
Baker. Fuckoff.
So Sophicia is like one of the main characters. She is given her quest to destroy the Soul Edge by Hephaestus, the god of fire. Or Hephaestus, sorry. She has no fighting training whatsoever, but she kind of has like, God's intervention, which is giving her strength. And basically, she is one of the main people who's responsible for stopping Cervantes at the end of the first game. And that's pretty much it. Also, she has a holy sword called the Omega Sword.
Yeah, like, you can just tell that they were just like, they didn't think of, what's an interesting story arc for a character, and then we'll make a character. They're all like, let's have a Greek god-looking girl and then make up some shit around her, which is fine, that's a fail from me, probably.
Yeah. This one for me was like, I think she's like the worst character in terms of story. Like, it's funny because that's in Soul Edge. In Soul Calibur, her entire plot is the exact same, except she has no hand in like the final battle. So she has no story whatsoever in this actual game.
Man, I didn't realize how intricate this shit was. You know, like, I guess people like the lore of fighting games sometimes, but they're all ridiculous and it's all an excuse to fight.
Remember,
like,
I was telling you, sorry, just a bit of a tangent, but like I got, what's the new Mortal Kombat?
11.
14. I got Mortal Kombat 11 there like last year, but I hadn't played any Mortal Kombat games before that, so I wanted to know the backstory, and so I watched like
Sean, there's 10 of them,
dude. I know, and I watched like all the cutscenes from each game, like and man, like some of them were like 2 hours long on YouTube, so it was like watching a film, like it was just insane, and I couldn't even tell you it now because it's like
wasted time.
It's just so interesting. Like there's time travel involved. There's like alternate versions of themselves in different dimensions and stuff. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, sorry, that was just about fighting game stories.
This is a good point to bring up because like this is honestly what I think makes a fighting game for a lot of people, because like for me it's always been Tekken because that's the one I invested the most time in and I'm really familiar with the story of Tekken. So like that's why I enjoy it. Like this is why I want to do this here, because like I don't feel that I was invested in the stories of the Soul Calibur characters, but once I looked them up I definitely felt more strongly about the story and I thought it kind of works.
Okay.
So next character, and this is another one I'd be interested to hear your views, is a character called Mitsurugi. He's another famous character.
So he's like a samurai looking dude, isn't he?
Exactly, yeah. His only motivation is to find strong enemies to fight. He's never actually encountered the Soul Edge canonically in the game.
So he doesn't even know why everyone else is there. He's just like, I'm going to kill you.
Lads, I like killing.
He's like, what tournament?
I was really surprised to find that. Like, I couldn't find any other story for him except for he wants to fight strong people. That's it.
I remember he was always my favourite when I was young and playing Soul Edge just because he looked cool.
He does look cool, yeah.
So he's a pass for me because he looks cool and he's a simple man with simple desires.
I mean, really, he's a pass.
I don't know. I'm on the fence about it because on one hand, there's no backstory to him, but on the other hand, I do kind of like when there's like an outlier mercenary kind of character who's like, I'm just here to kill, kind of, you know, and like, so I don't know. I mean, I'd have to maybe stay on the fence until I hear the rest. Like, how many do we have to pass? Like,
oh no, you don't have to pass any. It's just like, do you think they're good characters or not?
I mean, if I was playing the game, I'd probably pick him. So I'm going to give him a pass.
There you go.
Okay. Well, interesting side note on Mitsurugi, right? In the Korean version of Soul Calibur, he was not a playable character. He wasn't in it at all because of like sensibilities about samurai in South Korea. Wow. So they replaced him with a character called Arthur, who was English, but also learned samurai fighting styles.
Okay. Arthur, come on.
Yeah, and his whole thing was that he hopped on a boat in England, came over to Japan and learned Japanese and forgot English. So he was an English person who, like, he was only like, just to clarify, he was only a kid, like he was only like 8 years old or something like that when he was on the boat.
No, that doesn't sound like an English person. English, if we judge it by history, if an English person went to a different country, he wouldn't assimilate to their culture. It'll be the other way around.
Yeah, okay, that's very true. Sorry, but just a tangent, Steve. But what are the what's the deal with South Korea and samurai?
So there's just, because there have been wars between South Korea, it's South Korea and Japan, and Japan would have like samurai as like within their military ranks. There is like.
But I mean, like, but this guy is like playing a samurai. It's just an English guy playing a samurai. It's almost worse because it's like, I come from Imperial England and I'm also learning for him to be a samurai.
He's a double whammy, man. They cancel each other out. You know?
But that's the thing. All they did was change his like ethnicity. That was it.
And his hair color. He's just a blonde dude with an eye patch. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And the eye patches, I think it's just kind of to distance it from like Japanese samurai. So like English samurais are completely fine. If Tom Cruise had been there being a samurai, we'd have no issues whatsoever.
Sick. Okay.
Is Arthur a pass or a fail?
I'm giving Arthur a fail. I mean, he's funny, but like,
yeah, he's a fail.
Okay. Our next character is Xianghua, which in the original Soul Calibur website, she was described as a babylicious beauty.
Okay.
That has since been taken down, but it's still on the IGN review of the game because they said they quote that part of the website. I just thought that was really funny. Anyway, so Xianghua was born to monk warrior parents, and it was actually forbidden for monks to, have children. So like that was a bit of a bit dodgy there. So she was excommunicated from the warrior monks, and she became a member of the Chinese Imperial Guard. Once there, because the Chinese Imperial Guard ordered it, she was sent on a quest to destroy the Soul Edge. And on the way, she joins up with two characters, Killick and Maxi. In Soul Calibur, the game, she is the one who ultimately defeats Nightmare and destroys the Soul Edge sword, because her sword is actually the Soul Calibur itself. The light to the Soul Edge is a dark sword.
Oh, so she has the Soul Calibur.
Yeah,
for the whole game.
She doesn't realize she has it until the end of the game. So it's something that she inherited from her parents, but she just thought it was just a regular sword.
She's like, that's a good coincidence. That's that happened.
But nobody else in the game noticed. Wait a minute, that's the Soul Calibur.
I think so. It's hard for me to tell because in her ending it was all in Japanese, so I wasn't 100% sure. But I think it turns into the Soul Calibur while she's fighting him. I think.
And her parents gave it to her, like. So where did they get it?
So
sorry, go on.
It was the monk warriors were like guarding that sword. It was supposed to be like a holy, like a very important sword. But the mother stole it from them when she was excommunicated with her daughter, and gave it to her. Like, yeah.
I'm going to give this a pass because it's like the typical JRPG storyline of the chosen one, and like your magical sword beats the other magical sword sort of crap. And it's like it's funny that that's in there for one character, but some other dude is just like, I just want to kill people. So I
don't know. Like, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's kind of like
it's a bit bog standard, isn't it?
Well, it's just the fact that. It's just at the end. It's like, oh, turns out I had this all along. It's like
it'd be funny if like she was in the final battle and your man was like, my sword can only be defeated by the sword of light or whatever, and she just takes out a pistol and just shoots him in the head. It's like, oh, I had a gun all this time. Great.
I do feel like it's worth noticing that in the description, or mentioning in the description, they make a point of saying like before she left on her quest, she cut her hair short because that's the honorable thing to do, and that's never explained. Like, why is cutting her hair short honorable? I have no idea, but it's because she's one of the few girl characters with short hair.
They just wanted someone with a bob. That's all they wanted.
Pretty much.
But yeah, it's a pass from me.
I don't know, I'm feeling a fail on this one. I know she's got the Soul Calibur, but it's not adding up.
I'm kind of inclined to lean towards Sean as well, man, Michael, just because like I get what you mean, that it's good to have like that character in there, but she's she's really fun to fight with, but her story's a bit meh.
Fuck all
in my
you,
opinion.
man. I'm not friends with you anymore. Fuck that. Make my own podcast.
Excellent. Okay, next
is someone keeping score on these, by the way, Steve?
The editor will.
No.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, Michael. Shit.
So our next character is Killick. He is Chinese and he fights with a bow staff. All we really know about him is he's very shy. He's part of the same monk clan that Shanghua's parents were from, and he is also looking to destroy the Soul Edge. But interesting side note, and nothing comes of this until later games, when the Soul Edge was originally destroyed in the first game, he went on a killing spree and unknowingly and unwittingly killed Zhang Hua's sister, who she never knew or met. But they traveled together, and neither of them knows that he has done this.
Did they ever find out?
I think they find out in later games. I only looked up as far as this game, so I don't actually know.
So was Zhang Hua's sister evil then?
No, she actually never met Shanghua. Like, Shanghua never met her own sister because she was an older sister, and she was like given away at 2 years old because having children was forbidden in like the monks.
But
warrior monks place.
So why did Killick kill her though?
So when the original Soul Edge was destroyed, something called the evil seed burst, and you can feel free to use that for your own purposes as well. But when the evil seed burst, it was affected a lot of people. They kind of went on murderous rampages. This is a theme that'll happen across many characters. On his rampage, he kills Shang Huang's older sister.
I think that's it's a convenient excuse, but this shit is getting into fucking, soap opera bullshit. Like, he killed my long lost sister I never even met. So how do you even feel about that? Like, am I angry? It's like...
Didn't even know I had a sister.
It's like if I said to Sean, I'm going to burn this £50 note that I was going to give to you. And it's sort of like,
Are you comparing a sister to a 50-pound note?
But that's different though, because you're telling me you're going to do it. So it would be like if you did that in your own time at home, and then like 10 years down the line, I was going to give you 50 quid, but I burned it.
Like, you wouldn't feel good about it, but you wouldn't like fall out.
Like, well, it was your 50, man. You know?
What if it was like someone told Michael to give you 50 quid, and rather than give it to him, he just burnt it and you never knew it was coming to you? That would be what it'd be like.
This dude's a fail. Fuck this dude, man.
You don't like this guy, no?
No, I don't like
No, he's
Killick,
getting
man.
a fail, man. I do. The bow staff is cool, but that's it. That's all he's
fair
doing
enough.
for me. Yeah.
Okay, so the next guy is an interesting one. This is Maxi. And remember, Shanghua, Killick, and Maxi, they all travel together, and they're the ones who basically take down Nightmare, the main guy of Soul Calibur. So Maxi, he fights with nunchucks, and he is a Japanese pirate. His ship was ransacked.
Why is that funny, Sean?
I don't know.
Pirates.
Because I'm looking at a picture of him. He doesn't look like a pirate.
No, he looks like a
No,
model.
he doesn't
man.
at all.
They all look like models.
They all do, of course they do. Yeah. But his like motivation for going after the Soul Edge is his ship was ransacked by two of the bad guys, basically Astaroth and Lizard Man. We're going to come to them later. Okay. And he decided to join Killick in his quest to destroy the Soul Edge, but he ultimately dies at the end of this game at the hands of Astaroth, who is a golem.
Wait, so like characters canonically die at the end of this game?
Oh yeah. Now it's a fighting game, so they can be brought back. But in this game, he dies at the end of it at the hands of a giant golem, who is a playable character.
That's going to get a pass from me because it is sort of cool that like they tie it into other characters and they have like personal motivations in a way. And like I admire the fact that he's killed at the end of the game. Like there's some finality to it. Obviously, like you're saying, they can come back for stupid reasons, and like 90% of players don't care about the story, so they won't even look into it. Yeah. But now he'll get a pass from me, and like I like his like little
quiff thing.
Little quiff. I was going to say queef. And I know that's not the word I should use there.
It kind of looks more like a queef than a quiff, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. But yeah, he'll get.
If you're looking at it, can you see his eyebrows? How pointed they are?
Yeah, he's definitely extra, man. But like, he's probably like within the Soul Calibur world when you're standing beside Ivy and fucking Voldo. Like, he looks like a normal dude you'd meet down the street.
I think he's got forked eyebrows. I can't tell, but it looks like he does.
He always looks angry.
What's his personality like?
They don't really say. I think because of his hair and all, I think you're kind of supposed to get the impression he's a bit of a playboy kind of.
Yeah, he's getting a fail from me, so sorry.
Yeah, too full of himself. Yeah.
That quiff's annoying me, man.
Getting in his eyes all the time.
I'd probably have to give him a fail. I like his fighting style, but he's got like almost no backstory, so I'm a bit like, eh. Okay, our next character, this is probably like the longest one, so I'll try and get through it fast. This is the ninja Taki, and she fights with a Kodachi, which is like a small
she doesn't
sword.
fight with a bra on, I'll tell you that.
She's actually one of the few characters to rarely show her cleavage. This is the only game where her cleavage is shown. I tell you, the frequently asked questions for this game is insane. Anyway, Taki is an orphan who was raised to be a ninja by a ninja clan. She has supernatural powers. That's never explained. And she decides as she grows up, she's going to rid the world of demons that threaten humanity. In Soul Calibur, the game, she is asked by her foster father Toki to track down a man called Hachibe, who used to be Toki's ninja partner. He deserted the clan along with his daughter Chie. When she finds him, Hachibe informs Taki that Toki is actually possessed and he just wants the ninja sword that he stole. Toki continues to hunt them down, so Taki figures it's the Soul Edge doing it. And then she goes off and kills Cervantes, who she... Okay, so I went a bit fast there, right? But she assumes that the Soul Edge in the original game is somehow controlling Toki. I don't know why she thinks this, but that's her reasoning for going after the Soul Edge in the first game. Is with me so far?
Yeah, no, I'm not, but go on, yeah.
To summarize it up, basically, she thinks her master has gone mad because of the Soul Edge in the first game, so she goes to destroy it. That's all you really need to know. So she is in the first game, Sophisha weakens Cervantes, but she's the one who ultimately kills him. In Soul Calibur, her master Toki is still under the spell, so she hides the spell. Hang on. Taki gets the sword she hid from him, which when joined with a soul edge shard becomes a dark blade. She runs from the clan to keep them safe. So basically she's on the run in this
Don't
game.
try and make this nonsense make sense. It's fucking...
All I'm getting
Sorry.
from looking at her is she looks like really sore. Do you know what I'm talking
always
about?
like
Sore in a certain area.
Sean. Don't bring down the tone of this fucking...
I'm sorry, but all the, like, you said she never shows her cleavage. All the pictures I'm seeing here are of her cleavage, like, being fucking
shown.
like, strangled.
That's probably Google taking your search history into account, as we know what you're after, Sean.
Sean, yeah. What sort of ads are you getting, man? Okay, whatever. Like she's it's fun that like she teamed up with someone to destroy the Soul Edge, but it seems like her motivation is just a copy and paste from the last game, to be honest. So she's going to be a bit of a fail for me.
Okay, how about you, Sean?
I'm probably going to go fail as well. It seems like...
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. She has like probably the most intricate backstory, I think.
A bit too much, maybe. A bit
Too much talking going on.
Bear in mind, this is all stuff that I had to research. Very little of this is actually explained in game.
You need to read the book before you fucking play the game.
The next one's going to be my favorite because it's going to be so short. So this is Astaroth, the golem that killed Maxi. So he is a golem that was created by Ares, the god of war, which you will remember from the game, God of War. And so he created him just to retrieve the Soul Edge, and he is defeated by Siegfried, the guy who is the bad guy in this game. And once he's defeated by Siegfried, he enters into his service, which initially seems like, okay, I'll join you because you bested me, but he's actually doing it because he wants another chance to steal it.
I like this dude's design because he looks like he'd be good friends with Voldo, and I want Voldo to be a friend, really, like someone who can just relate to. Yeah, I have a load of like crazy spikes and shit on me, and you know, like really impractical stuff I'm wearing. So
Sorry,
he's going to get a pass from me just for that reason.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting you, Michael. What was his name again?
Astaroth.
Astaroth.
Astaroth. Let me just have a quick look.
ASS space.
Oh, he's a big lad.
He is a big boy, all right, yeah. A lot of leather in there. I didn't actually realise that until you said it, but he is actually kind of similarly dressed to Voldo. Yeah.
I think it speaks more to the, you know, passions of the character designers than anything else. Is like the way they dressed all these fucking people.
I think I'll give him a pass because he's like a heavy character as well, and I think you need one of those in like every fighting, like a tank character.
Yeah, you do.
Well,
like
there is another one of those before you go too far now. But if you, and I like him as well, so I'd probably give him a pass. But I'm only chiming in if there's a draw between the two of you.
There you go. Okay, let's do it.
Well, I said pass.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Did you?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Next we have Huang.
Isn't there a Huang in Tekken? No, I'm thinking of
that's Huarang. This is Huang. Get it right. Huang. Huang Computers.
Is this the noise his sword makes when he hits a door with?
That's pretty much their reasoning for calling him Huang, yeah. So this one is a really interesting one, not really narrative-wise, but like in terms of the game. So in the original game, right, he was Mitsurugi's replacement in Soul Edge. So Mitsurugi was replaced in both this game and the last game. So in the first game, he was replaced by Huang. But in Soul Calibur, he became his own character. And his only real story is that he is a very proud warrior and he wants to like do good by his village, but also he is in love with the character of Seongmi Na, and he kind of wants to, you know, with her.
Do battle? Of a sorts, I guess, yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, no, he's a fail. Like, he, just looking at his design as well, like, looks so generic. If I had an AI generator to make a Soul Calibur character that wasn't like a scantily clad girl, it would end up with this dude.
I prefer Mitsurugi, to be honest. So I'm going to say fail.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Okay, now the next one, Siegfried. This is the guy who grabs the shut up Sean this is the guy who grabs the soul edge at the end of Soul Edge the game, and he becomes the character of Nightmare. So just a little bit of backstory on him. When he was a kid, he was in a gang, and his father was actually a knight. He's German, by the way, and his father was a knight, like in like the German military. So because he was in a gang, he used to go around and like stealing from the rich, because he believed that there was a big class divide in his village. And one day he attacked like a bunch of knights who had just finished a battle, and they slaughtered the entire lot of them. And you probably see where this is going. He held up the head of the last person that he killed, and shock horror, it was his own father. So at this point, Siegfried goes completely insane. He runs into the woods and he has a complete mental breakdown, and he convinces himself.
That's not a bit funny, Sean.
Sorry.
Good old Sean loves depressing stories.
I can just imagine running off crying into the forest.
Get down! But Siegfried, in his madness, he convinces himself that somebody else killed his father, and he convinces himself that he has to go on some kind of pilgrimage to avenge his father's death by killing the man who killed his father. So he becomes a knight in the German military to train himself up to be good enough to kill the murderer. He eventually comes across like the Soul Edge in his quest to become stronger, and he grabs it, and that's when he becomes Nightmare. So the sword speaks to him after he grabs it and tells him that if he gathers enough souls for the Soul Edge, the sword can resurrect his father, and that's his motivation for going around and killing as many people as he does. In Soul Calibur, he gathers 3 followers: Astaroth, Lizard Man, and Ivy.
Lizard Man.
And he also, we'll get to Lizard Man in a minute. During the canon of the story is he killed Killick and he defeated Shanghua. But when he's eventually defeated, he realizes his past mistakes. He still holds on to the Soul Edge, and some people think that like it's kind of still has control over him, but he has some like waking moments where he realizes who he is a lot of the time, and that's his story.
I like this. I have to say.
I'm giving him a pass.
Pass as well.
Like, he's got good character development. I like how he turns into another character as well. That's really cool.
And the character design of Nightmare, I like character design of both of them are cool, and there's like a nice like difference between them. Like they're both 2 sides of one thing. Like he is the shiny armor, Nightmare has like the darker armor with the fucked up arm and stuff like that. And yeah, it's cool. I'm digging that.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite character now of everyone, I have to say.
Is he your favorite, like, fighting, in terms of fighting style as well, do you think?
Jesus, that's a good question now, because like I don't know who my favorite fighter would be. I think it actually probably would be either Maxi or Killick, because like because a lot of people have swords like they're excellent. But a lot of the characters are good.
Okay.
Okay, next we have Seung-mi Na. So she is Korean, and in her village she's an excellent fighter. Everybody acknowledges this, but everyone in the village also wants her just to settle down and marry Hwang. In an effort to prove herself, she goes off to find the Soul Edge, and in Soul Calibur she does the same thing, but she is defeated by Ivy. When she's defeated by Ivy, she kind of crawls off and she meets this extremely alcoholic bow staff master who completely annihilates her as well. So he asks him if he will train her. Little does she know, this is actually Shanghua's long lost father. And basically she trains under him until she is good enough to fight Nightmare, but someone else defeats him before she has a chance. And she eventually gets dragged back home by Hwang at the end of Soul Calibur.
It's a bit like, why did she even bother, sort of thing?
Well,
and,
this is all canon, like she has her own ending where she actually does beat the Nightmare, but like canonically she just doesn't manage it and she gets dragged back to her village by Hwang.
It's fine. It's a pass for me. It's not like the most sexy story in the world, but it'll do,
It'll do. All right.
I'll give it a pass.
The one that you've all been looking forward to, Lizard Man.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember this dude at all.
I honestly thought this was a one-off character, but apparently he's in like a lot of the games. I think it's because in other games he goes by the name Eon Kalkos, but in this one he's just Lizard Man. So,
is that like a placeholder they forgot to replace or something? What the fuck?
No, who knows? So he's also Greek, and like Sophita, he was charged by Hephaestus, the god of fire, to destroy Soul Edge. But when the evil seed burst, it drove him mad and he slaughtered an entire village. The cult that made Astaroth, the golem, captured him. They found him like wandering like the plains because he was so miserable over what he'd done. They capture him, experiment on him, and turn him into the Lizard Man, and also put him under their control.
Okay.
His main motivation in this game, like he works for Nightmare in Soul Calibur, and his main motivation is to capture Bangu, who is I was about to say the Rock's son, but it's the character Rock's son. And the reason he does that is to kind of draw Rock out, because apparently he has an especially strong soul that Nightmare wants to take.
You know, I'm going to give it a pass because they sort of explain how he's a lizard man. No, actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to give it a fail because it'd be 10 times funnier if they never referenced the fact he was a lizard man. And there's like, he came from his village, you know. He's just from a village. So that's a fail. I just want zero explanation for the lizard men.
I'm gonna give him a pass because he's just, again, another weird, outlandish character.
He's just a dude.
Yeah, but he's a lizard. So, yeah.
Every single time there's been a draw here so far, I find myself I have to side with Sean here. So sorry, man,
yes.
but like I give him a pass as well because I just think he's deadly.
The evil within.
Don't push it, Sean. All right, now this one is a really weird one. Yoshimitsu.
Oh, yeah, sick.
Yeah, so as I'm sure you know, Namco, they also like produce Tekken. So it was a different team, but like the same producers. So like they were working on the same building, and basically they said, here, use our character. He can kind of give you like a bit of a boost, like boost up your roster a little bit.
And he uses a weapon as well in Tekken, so it ties into Soul Calibur that way, I guess, yeah.
I think it's really interesting actually that in this game, not in Tekken, but in this game, he's like a flag bearer. So he's got like the traditional Japanese flag coming out of his back. And I feel like that's like, you know, he's kind of heading the charge here because this is one character that they have established as like a really successful character in a different franchise. This is just me reading too much into it anyway. But his story has nothing to do with the main story whatsoever.
Sick.
When I looked it up, right, it says that this guy called Oda Nobunaga, who is a real person in Japanese history, wanted to use the Manji clan's strength, which is where Yoshimitsu is from. Yoshimitsu goes to his castle to politely refuse to help him. And this here man, Oda Nobunaga, basically destroys his entire village when he refuses him. So Yoshimitsu goes looking for the Soul Edge to be strong enough to fight Oda's army. But then along the way, he realizes that if he takes that sword to fight him, he'd be no better than him. So he eventually decides not to take it.
Wow, that's some fucking, proper grown-up stuff from Yoshimitsu. Just fucking like he politely declines the guy and then he takes the high road later and says, you know what, I'm going to turn the other cheek and not fucking decimate this guy with like an unholy sword. So yeah, that gets a pass from me. And man, it's Yoshimitsu, so I love this dude. He was always the freakiest dude in Tekken, so stabbing himself through the stomach and shit like that. So yeah, no, it's definitely a pass from me.
Yeah, definitely a pass from me too.
Yeah. And just like an extra thing, just to add on to it, while he does like realize that the sword is evil, he still looks for it, like in Soul Calibur, the game, because he wants to prevent other people from having it. So
he's just a good guy.
He's just a nice lad.
He's just a fucking good guy.
Okay, next we have Rock. Not the Rock, but Rock. So Rock's father was the guy who originally bought the Soul Edge. So technically he's there when the entire events of this series kicks off. So his father was transporting the sword back to his home city when Cervantes boarded the ship, stole it, and killed Rock's parents. So Rock washed up in the Americas, where he decided to live like the natives, even though the Native Americans didn't accept him for who he was. The one exception to this was an orphan named Bangu, who the Rock became the adoptive father of when he got a bit older. In Soul Calibur, his memories begin to resurface, and he decides to go after the Soul Edge because he thinks that it will help him remember his entire past. But while he's fighting, Lizard Man kidnaps Bangu, so he has to go after him to basically get Bangu back, and that's when he realizes that's where he needs to be and needs to forget his past and just be there for his new son.
I like this shit as well, man. They're getting more wholesome as they go on. Like people like turning their back on violence, and just for a fighting game, that's fucking insane, really.
Yeah.
Because like, wasn't the ending of one of the Tekkens is where Nina slaps her sister? Anna Williams,
yeah.
and she's like steals her shoe or some shit. I can't remember.
I remember that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so this is like a dude, and he becomes part of another culture again, like Arthur, and just fucking celebrates it and has a son and says, you know what? Unless it is fighting, I'm going home.
He also, in some costumes, he's got like a giant rhino skull as a helmet, and I think that's sick.
That's pretty dope.
I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like his design as well. Yeah, pretty cool.
Pass for me too.
Who's better, him or Astaroth as a big tank character?
I like that they're different. You know?
Yeah, I'd nearly say Rock.
All right, so we're nearly finished now. There's only one or two left. The big one, the one that we're really looking forward to, Cervantes. So, Cervantes' father worked for the Spanish militia, and it was his father was killed like on a mission for the Spanish militia. So in his mind, he felt that like it was killed because he followed the rules, and that's why he became a pirate, because he wanted to not follow rules out of respect for his father, who he felt was kind of shortchanged. So while he was out and about, do you remember the weapons merchant who Voldo was the right hand man to?
Oh yeah.
So he basically charged Cervantes to find the soul edge for him. He kept offering him more and more money to find the soul edge, and eventually he accepted it. But when he got the soul edge, he was driven mad by it. So, and then, as you know, he was eventually taken down by the two girls, and Siegfried took the sword from him. Let's see. He was accidentally resurrected when Siegfried became Nightmare, because fragments of the second sword. Oh, that was another thing. In the original game, there's actually two swords, but there's only one in Soul Calibur. Probably should have brought that up earlier. But when Siegfried becomes Nightmare, a shard from the original sword was lodged within him, and that somehow resurrects him. He has no memory of his past, just a desire to get the sword again.
I like that he's sort of the Heihachi of this series, as in like sort of the bad guy, but then you play as him in the other games and stuff like that, and he keeps going. And like I like he's a flamboyant pirate. Like what other way could a Soul Calibur be? So he's a pass from me. I like him.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence, but I do like his style, and yeah, I'll give him a pass for the crack. I mean,
very, very flamboyant, isn't he?
I wouldn't have said that, but
in comparison to some Soul Calibur characters,
I
less
guess so.
Maybe.
He's got one costume in this game where he's got like this big what do you call those those like Italian like masks, like masquerade ball kind of masks.
Oh yeah.
And it looks it's very very theatrical.
Definitely, actually, yeah, because I'm just looking in Soul Calibur 1, I'd agree, but later on, like he looks a bit more fierce.
He looks like a zombie or some shit.
Yeah, he becomes like, depending on the game, he's either like a living person or kind of a zombie, because like his actual status as alive kind of gets called into question a couple of times.
Alive question mark.
All right, we've got like one more major character, and there's only like one or two side characters who won't take long. The last major character is Ivy. Ivy is English, and she has a kind of sword whip. So she was raised by English parents who found her abandoned, and both of her foster parents, they died looking for the soul edge. Ivy decided to follow in their footsteps as a mark of respect for them. She's driven a little bit mad in an effort to make her living weapon. So her parents were like alchemists, and she felt the only way she could challenge whoever held the soul edge was to make a weapon that could like match it. So like she wanted to have this like living weapon that kind of matched it in terms of supernatural powers, if you know what I mean. So she kept doing these like she kept doing these rituals on her sword, trying to like possess it or like put some kind of spell on it. And eventually she managed it. She summons a demon which possesses her sword and allows it to turn into kind of a sword whip thing. Nightmare comes across her. She doesn't know that Nightmare has the soul edge, but he tricks her into helping him collect souls to make that weapon that she built even stronger. After Nightmare is defeated, she learns about the soul edge, like how he had it the whole time, but she also learns about her real father, who was Cervantes, who raped a random girl, and
Jesus Christ,
while he was under the influence of the soul edge, and that's how Ivy came about.
That's how he justified it. It was the soul edge, man. It was fucking nothing to do with me.
Jeez, that's a fucking crazy backstory. I've always liked Ivy's fucking weapon. I always thought that was really unique and cool. And her design is obviously fucking crazy as well. Like
provocative.
It's very much keying into one demographic there. Ivy's going to get a pass from me, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm giving her
I
a
think he's
pass as
good.
well.
Savage, yeah. I think she's got a really interesting backstory. Okay, now I've got to the last two characters. These are minor, like unlockable characters, kind of specials. So this shouldn't take long. The first one is a guy called Edgemaster, brother
Does he wear sunglasses and have like a fedora on?
He's actually in one of his costumes. He's got like it looks like there's a crack in his head that's got like metal staples keeping it together. I have no idea what the reasoning behind that is.
Wow.
So Edgemaster, he's very much like an optional character, kind of in the style of Mokujin from Tekken. So he's kind of the imitator character. He can imitate any fighting style, which is why he's kind of, renowned as one of the greatest fighters ever. He trained at Shanghua's parents', the temple monks. He trained with them. He actually trained almost everybody there. And when the evil seed erupted, he found Killick, who had just killed Shanghua's sister, and helped him like get himself under control again. And he's the one who sends Killick off on his quest to destroy the Soul Edge as a way of proving that Killick is actually back to normal and he's got full control of his senses. And that's pretty much his entire story. But halfway, like after he sends him out, he gets concerned that maybe Killick won't be able to do this. So he goes out and follows him to kind of keep an eye on him. And that's how he gets into other fights.
The thing I don't like is that like half of these people know each other and are friends and shit, and then they meet in Soul Calibur and are like, I'm just going to kill you because like you're in my way. But we both want the same thing. So it's like... but yeah, Edgemaster's cool, I guess. I do like you were saying, there's that character who can like mimic other styles and stuff like that. I guess like I've never used those characters when I'm playing a fighting game though, because like you want someone with their own distinct move set and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
it's a weird one, isn't it? Because like it's in so many games, but I don't know anybody who would say like, oh, that's my favorite character, because how can it be?
yeah, exactly, because they're like a bit blank by design, really. No, he's a fail from me, actually. Yeah,
I'm going to give him a pass actually, because I think I like his design. I'm just looking, and I'm just reading that he was playable in Soul Calibur, but he doesn't return until Soul Calibur 5 as a playable character, which is
There
like
you go.
kind of a cool little nugget.
Treat him mean, keep him keen.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a pass.
Well, this is the first time now that I have to side with Michael on this one,
Okay.
I'm afraid. I wouldn't give him a pass just because I feel like he's fine as just a character, like an optional character, but I don't think his story is really worth much.
Fair.
So, yeah. Okay, and our last character, who should be very easy, is Inferno, who in the original game was just known as Soul Edge. And this is basically the demonic force that lives inside the Soul Edge. I think this guy shows up in nearly every single game, and he's just like the last boss. In the original game, he's kind of made of like energy, and like he has a skull for like on his head, or he has a skull instead of a head. But in this one, he's more of just like made up of flames, and he's kind of got a dome, hard fire head thing, no skull, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't really have a story. He's just out to get souls.
You know, I like that. It's just fire. Like, what's the character? It's fire. It's just if you light a fire, that's it. That's the same character. And
It's a show about nothing.
well, I can get behind that. Yeah, just fucking be, like the wind is your enemy. Yeah, cool. How do you fight that, man? Yeah, no, it's a pass from me. Fucking hit me all day with that random, like, non-explainable shit. I'll take that over, his cousin was killed by Mitsurugi's fucking mechanic.
He looks like a cool boss design, so yeah, it's a pass.
Okay, so that's all the characters, and I feel like we've done about half of them are pass. And I think
that's
like
a good 50-50 there, yeah.
But and my reasoning behind this game not being like as popular as others is because like I don't think half is enough for a fighting game. I think for a good fighting game, you want at least 75% of your characters to be memorable, solid characters, and I feel like this kind of falls short of the mark.
Yeah, like I do have to give him props for having like some crazy designs, but then you got a lot of filler characters in there, like Huang and shit like that, who just fucking. You know,
Huang computers.
They're nobody's favorite in terms of design and shit like that. They're just like maybe they like their fighting style or something, and that like that's cool and all. They want to have like a lot of different fighting styles, but like compared to the cooler and more distinct characters, they're always going to like lag behind.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you, yeah. Now, having said that, like I made a big deal about how the characters aren't as like inspired as like Tekken or Mortal Kombat or whatever. Having said that, I still said I'm a fan because I think this game feels so good. I definitely recommend you guys playing it. Like I think you can get it on... none of you guys have Xbox, do you?
No, but is it on Game Pass, is it?
I think it's on Game Pass, so it might be on like PC Game Pass. Are they all the same? Actually, I don't know if they are.
Yeah, if it's on the cloud Game Pass, then you can play it on any system.
Oh yeah, well then it probably will be on that. I definitely recommend it. Like I had more fun than I was expecting out of this. One thing that they added into the console version of this game is the mission mode, and this is to give it like lots of replay value. I gotta tell you, they do incredible stuff with this. I don't play a lot of like fighting games. Like I know this kind of thing isn't in Tekken and Street Fighter. It might be in something like Mortal Kombat, but they've got like really unique perspective and like novelty matches you can play. Like I was playing just before we started this, and one version was you fight like a set of 3 matches, and you can't inflict damage on your opponent unless you like hit them to the ground. So if you punch them or kick them, nothing. But if you hit them to the ground, game over and they're done.
That's cool.
There was another one. There's one where you're in a stage that's got like rats running around the floor, and if a rat runs into you, it basically halts your combo. So you kind of have like take a tiny bit of damage and it halts your combo, and like that's kind of an opportunity for the other person to hit you. Really good stuff. There's another one where you share a health bar. So you have to kind of like, if you hit somebody, then you take off health from them and you gain health, if that makes sense. So you have to keep hitting each other like strong enough to knock them all down. There's one where it's like you have to fight someone with the slowest character when their speed is increased like 3 times faster. Lots of really, really interesting like modes, and I found myself kept going back to it again and again and again. It's really good stuff.
That's sick. That's cool. Yeah, adding some like replay value to it, and like adding some useful handicaps and stuff like that. Yeah, I wish more games would do stuff like that, because like you were saying, lots of games struggle with like a main story mode or something to make it a bit more interesting, and that seems like a cool sort of unique way to do it. So I can see why people were like, yeah, this game is sick at the time.
The only game that I know that has something like this is Mortal Kombat, but I don't know this for definite. I know they have like a tower mode or something.
Yeah. I do think they added in sort of like, you have to win under certain conditions in some of the games. I do remember playing something like that in one of the Mortal Kombats.
Yeah, and the Injustice series, I think they do a similar thing. So it's something that they get onto. But like Tekken never really got into it. They've been more into like modes like beach volleyball and bowling, you know?
Some of them are great though. I remember playing the shit out of some of those modes when I was younger.
Tekken ball mode is absolutely sick. Like I love that. I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, that's the game in a nutshell, really. Like it's really engaging, like really fun. I honestly think I'm going to end up playing lots of games in the series, because I got into it in such a good way, and it feels so good, and it looks really good too. Like I honestly, I'm surprised by how good it looks.
Yeah, like, that's something that wasn't common, in that it was an arcade game that looked better on console than it did in the arcade version, because normally arcade, like the original arcade versions, look amazing. And then they have to downscale for console. But they, when I was researching, I came across the GameSpot review from 1999, and there's one quote they said about the graphics that I thought was like very of its time. And they say they also added a muscle flexing system that causes pectorals to ripple during victory poses, breasts and buttocks to jiggle realistically, read subtle, not exaggerated as in Dead or Alive, and skill to stretch in a most natural way, with not a polygon tear in sight. So this was, the breast jiggle, graphics were, I'm trying to find a word, they were subtle, guys, okay?
Subtle, yeah.
I will say, like, I mean, I more had take issue with that comment than the game itself, because like it is subtle. Like I did notice that when I was watching. I was like, oh yeah, they did put a little bit of effort into that, and like is that really where you want to be putting your effort? But again, it looks so good. I guess like that's one of the few areas they could go with, like the flexing and the butt jiggling. I have to say, I didn't notice any butt jiggling. But
well, you're not as thorough a reviewer as this guy.
In a quest for realism, you have to include butt jiggling.
It's like, why even bother? Last of Us 2, failure. No butt jiggling, man. Okay, cool. Well, the main thing to ask is, and this is mostly a question for Steve, is does it deserve its place on the list? So it's number 4 out of all time games.
It's a tricky one for me. I think if I was to take an objective stance with it, I'd probably have to say yes, because this was only good. Like nothing in this like left me like hanging that I wanted more. Like there was a good variety of characters. Some of them were a bit fillery, but like their fighting styles made up for it. It had so much replay value. Like I still found myself going back to it. It was novel. It looked amazing. I can't think of anything really that I would change about this game. Like the only thing really that got to me, and it's the same for you guys, is that there's some filler characters I wish they had more interesting stories or they just looked a bit more visually interesting. But as I said, the fighting style makes up for it. So yeah, no, I actually do think this deserves its place. Like I feel if I was more invested into the series, I'd have a lot more respect for the characters, and therefore I'd be able to get past my lack of interest in some of their stories. Yeah. So yeah, no, I'd definitely say it definitely deserves its place.
That's fair. And like, I get, it's almost like Tony Hawk's in a way. It's like, okay, it's not the first game that comes to mind when you think of best of all time, but it's amazingly well made, and it's like a high point in its genre as well. In some ways, it's mad. Like looking down the list, the next fighting game isn't until the 30s.
Right.
34.
Is that Tekken?
It's Tekken 3, yeah. Which is a great game as well. And like maybe one, because of my personal taste, would probably come to mind before Soul Calibur. But that's probably because I had a PlayStation, I didn't have a Dreamcast, etc. But yeah, it seems to, like, again, it's just a very good game that does everything right, and a very, very good arcade port as well.
Yeah, something I didn't really focus on, but really can't be understated, is like the arena and like running system is incredible, because I honestly can't think of any fighting game that has ever done it better. And this is a game that is like nearly 20 years old, and like I can't think of any arena fighters that are as good as this, or feels as good as this. Because usually like when you have games where you can move on a 3D axis, it feels awkward and clunky. I'd include Tekken in that. You can move in a 3D way, but it's obviously not the focus. Like they're not 2D, but like it is kind of played on a 2D plane, and you're only supposed to sidestep as like a technical thing, whereas these are arena fighters, and it feels good. That's the thing that I can't get over, how good this game feels to play.
Well, that's where it's going to like stand or fall, really.
Yeah.
Like any game, but yeah, fighting game especially, like it's got to feel good. Okay, sick. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we should about wrap that up. But before we go, I think I should ask my good friend, Michael, what are we going to talk about next, inverted commas, week? End inverted commas.
Well, first of all, we're not friends. Just like to get that like on paper. The audio paper, that is.
We have fun, don't we?
In the next episode, we actually have a double whammy because...
we should explain.
Yeah, the next entry on the list is technically number 5, Grand Theft Auto 4 for the 360, but we've covered Grand Theft Auto 4. So number 6 and 7 is actually Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. So we're going to make a combined episode where we talk over both games, because they're, very similar games in some ways.
Yep. Also on a new console for the podcast as well, the Wii. So we'll chat about that a bit.
First dip in of the Wii.
Yeah, it's mad that they're like so close together, and really convenient, because they are so similar.
It suits us very well. Okay, sick. Thanks for listening, guys. That was an amazing deep dive into the Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
Nice. We will talk to you next week.
Inverted commas.
Next week.
Time. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.